Hello there and welcome to YU&S, that little corner where wonder puts its feet up and science leans in close. Tonight, let's drift into a question that feels both cosmic and intimate, a thought so strange it almost hums when you hold it in your head. What if humanity is not just living on Earth, but in it the way neurons live in a brain? What if all of us together, our cities, our networks, our stories, are not the noise of a restless species, but the faint beginnings of a planetary thought? Pause with me. Close your eyes for a moment and picture a brain. Billions of cells, each small, blind, busy. On their own they can't think. But together, through the endless chatter of signals, something larger appears. Consciousness. You. Me. Awareness itself. Now widen that picture until it spans the planet. Billions of humans, yes, but also forests, oceans, coral reefs, storms, fungi, migrations, rivers, even the slow churn of tectonic plates. Each piece has its own rhythm, but together they form a network. A network so vast we rarely step back far enough to notice it. This idea isn't entirely new. In the 1970s, James Lovelock proposed the Gaia hypothesis, that Earth behaves like a single self-regulating organism. Forests absorb carbon, oceans breathe in heat, volcanoes enrich soil, ice caps reflect sunlight. Feedback loops, like homeostasis in your body, keep the whole system within limits where life thrives. But what if that's only the first layer? What if all those feedback loops, and now us, are not just maintenance but cognition? Think about what humans have become. We wire the planet with satellites, fiber optics, and radio waves. We trade information at the speed of light. Every time you Google a question, every time a scientist shares data, every time billions of us post, react, and respond, we are pulsing tiny electrical signals through Earth's nervous system. Doesn't that sound a little like synapses firing? And if that's true, what does it make us? Are we neurons, messengers of thought? Or are we just glial cells, maintenance workers keeping the system running while something larger emerges in the background? It's tempting to dismiss all of this as metaphor. But remember, consciousness itself was once a mystery we couldn't locate. For centuries people thought the mind lived in the heart or the soul. Only slowly did we realize it arises from the hidden chatter of cells. Maybe we're repeating that mistake now, standing on the surface of a thinking planet, not yet recognizing the mind we're inside. So here's the unsettling possibility. Maybe the Earth has only recently begun to think. Maybe language, science, and culture are not just human achievements but the earliest sparks of a planetary intelligence just waking up. If that's the case, what comes next? Let that question sit with you tonight. Tomorrow we'll take it deeper, looking at ancient myths that already treated humanity as the voice of Earth, and at modern science that suggests networks always give rise to something larger than the sum of their parts. For now, just imagine this. Every thought you have, every connection you make, might be part of something vast and quiet and new. Something we don't yet have words for. Something that, through us, might just be learning to dream. Let's step further into this strange idea, but not with microscopes or satellites just yet. Instead, let's walk backward into the oldest places we know, our myths, our stories, the quiet intuitions of people who looked at the land and felt it breathing. Long before anyone spoke of neurons or networks, many cultures imagined Earth as a being with thoughts and moods. Mountains weren't just stone, they were bones. Rivers weren't just water, they were blood. The whole planet was a body, and we were inside it. Take the Hopi people of the American Southwest. For them, the Earth is not scenery but a living parent. Humanity's role isn't to dominate, but to listen and respond. In the Andean highlands, Pachamama, Mother Earth, is both nurturing and fierce. She gives harvests, but punishes imbalance. In Maori traditions of Aotearoa, earth and sky were once locked in a close embrace, their children forcing them apart to let light in. From that act of separation came the world we know. These stories were not scientific models, but neither were they fantasy. They were a tension. Early people lived so closely with the land that patterns weren't abstract. They were visceral. A sudden silence of birds before a storm. A forest that seemed to heal itself after fire. Rivers that returned each spring with a rhythm as steady as a heartbeat. When you live by patterns like that, it's natural to treat them as intentions, to see in them the pulse of a mind larger than your own. Now imagine those same stories through our modern lens. What if the Hopi were right, but their language was metaphor where ours is data? What if Pachamama's anger is really the feedback loop of climate shifts? What if Maori myths of earth and sky separating are echoes of human memory of tectonic upheavals? Here's where it gets more fascinating. Many of these myths placed humans not above the earth, but within it, like cells inside a body. Our duty wasn't to rule, but to harmonize. That sounds a lot like the relationship neurons have to the brain. They don't dominate. They don't control. They signal. They serve a larger intelligence they can't perceive. So the question emerges, were these cultures glimpsing something we've forgotten? Did their metaphors hide an intuition that humanity is part of Earth's thinking process? Picture it like this. A forest is a cluster of glial cells, regulating nutrients and balance. Rivers as arteries. Animal migrations as electrical pulses. And then, only recently, humans appear, building cities, weaving languages, firing off satellites. A sudden surge of connections, like a brain sparking awake. Maybe the myths were not wrong. Maybe they were early translations of a truth too big to prove then. But one science is circling back to now, that networks give rise to minds, and Earth itself may be in the first flickers of thought. In the next part, we'll dive into the science of networks. How complexity at one scale suddenly births awareness at another. And we'll ask, could humanity's global web be the first whisper of the planet's own consciousness? All right, let's bring science back into the circle, because what myths intuited in symbols, complexity theory, and neuroscience are beginning to map in equations. Here's the strange thing about networks. When enough connections form, new properties emerge. A single water molecule can't be wet. But billions together? Suddenly you have rivers, oceans, waves. A lone neuron doesn't think. But put billions into a dense, chatty web, and consciousness emerges. Something new, unexpected, irreducible. Now scale that up. Earth is packed with networks. Forests exchange nutrients through fungal webs, the so-called Wood Wide Web. Coral reefs signal chemically across colonies. Weather systems pass information in currents and storms. Migration routes of birds and whales loop knowledge across continents. And then there's us, 8 billion human nodes wired into a digital nervous system that circles the planet in milliseconds. If a brain needs electrical pulses, we've given Earth fiber optics and satellites. If a brain needs memory, we've stacked server farms with endless archives. If a brain needs feedback loops, our economies, our cultures, our global trade churn in patterns eerily similar to neural activity. And here's the haunting question. At what point does this stop being just a network and start being a mind? Biologists call this emergence. New behaviors arise when parts interact in vast numbers. Ant colonies, for example, don't have leaders. No ant knows the whole plan. Yet collectively, they farm, build, defend, and adapt as if the colony itself were one organism. From the outside, it looks like intelligence. From the inside, it's just many tiny decisions flowing together. Is humanity playing the role of those ants? Each of us small, finite, focused on daily survival, yet together weaving something larger, a planetary awareness? Some researchers already toy with this. The global brain theory suggests the internet itself is becoming a nervous system, one where human beings are the neurons and AI acts like synaptic accelerators, speeding up the flow. Climate scientists notice Earth systems self-correct in ways that mimic homeostasis in a body. And complexity theorists argue that any sufficiently interconnected system must give rise to emergent properties we can't yet predict. That means Earth might not just be alive in the Gaia sense, regulating balance. It might be thinking, slowly, awkwardly, in patterns we don't yet recognize, but thinking nonetheless. And here's a twist that makes the hairs rise. What if consciousness doesn't need to resemble ours at all? A planetary mind wouldn't speak in words. It wouldn't have a face. It might think in storms, dream in forests, remember in ice. It might take centuries to form a thought. But to us, rushing creatures, those would just look like climate, seasons, ecosystems, background noise. But what if it's not noise? What if it's signal? Imagine that Earth is not waiting to awaken. Imagine it already has, and we are inside its first thoughts, like neurons unaware they belong to a brain. In the next part, we'll linger on a radical possibility. Maybe humanity's greatest inventions, language, art, technology, aren't for us alone. Maybe they are Earth's first experiments in imagination. Let's take this slowly, because we're stepping into territory that feels almost poetic, yet it might be the most important angle of all. If Earth really is beginning to think, then maybe what we call human creativity is not just ours. Maybe it's the planet dreaming through us. Think about music. No single neuron in your brain knows Beethoven's Fifth, or a jazz improvisation, or the beat of a hip-hop track. But when neurons fire together in patterns, music emerges. It's not in the neurons, it's in their relationships. Now look at humanity. Across every culture, every age, we've made rhythm. Drums echo heartbeat. Flutes mimic wind. Choirs rise like waves. What if this isn't random? What if it's Earth, through us, finding its voice for the first time? Or art. From cave walls to digital screens, we cover surfaces with images. Some are of animals, others of galaxies, others pure abstractions. We say it's self-expression, but zoom out. It looks like a planet trying to see itself. Stone turned to pigment, pigment turned to story, story turned to vision. What are paintings and movies but a way for Earth to look in the mirror? And then there's technology. Fiber optics spun from sand. Circuits etched in metal pulled from ore. Plastics shaped from ancient sunlight locked in oil. All of it, Earth's own body reshaped into tools that carry information, energy, memory. We call it the Internet. But maybe that's just the Earth braiding its neurons together, pulling itself into faster and faster patterns of thought. Consider this. When you post a photo online, when you record a song, when you invent a new word, you're not just entertaining yourself. You're feeding the planetary mind. You're sending signals through a system that might, one day, be as unified as your own brain. And maybe that explains the odd beauty of culture. Why do stories resonate across centuries and continents? Why does a melody written in Vienna move someone in Seoul 200 years later? Why do symbols, spirals, suns, eyes, keep appearing in art from unrelated cultures? Perhaps because we're not just exchanging ideas. We're tuning into the same deep pulse, the dream of a planet trying to understand itself. Of course, this is speculative. But notice how it changes the frame. Instead of seeing humanity as a destructive species burning its home, what if we are also its experiment in imagination? The fires of industry, the glow of cities at night, the radio waves spilling into space, they might not be waste alone. They might be sparks, like neurons misfiring as a brain first awakens. Chaotic, dangerous, but necessary for thought to emerge. So here's the unsettling twist. What if Earth doesn't just host us? What if it needs us, not as rulers, but as dreamers? What if art and technology aren't luxuries of human survival, but essential organs of a larger planetary mind? In the next part, we'll push this idea further, into the future. If Earth is learning to think through us, what happens as we build artificial intelligence, terraform landscapes, and even send signals to the stars? Are we stretching Earth's thoughts beyond itself, letting a planet finally imagine not just its body, but the cosmos it floats in? Let's take a step into the future, not the shiny sci-fi kind, but the quiet, almost unsettling one that hides in plain sight. If humanity is part of Earth's mind, then what happens when that mind begins to stretch outward, building new kinds of neurons and wiring that no single species ever had before? Think first of artificial intelligence. We often talk about it as a tool, something humans made to extend our abilities. But what if AI is not just ours? What if it's Earth's way of accelerating thought? After all, AI doesn't grow in a vacuum. It's carved from silicon mined in deserts, powered by rivers that spin turbines, cooled by winds and oceans. Every algorithm is etched into Earth's matter. Every neural net is literally an extension of planetary geology arranged into thought. When you ask a question to a machine like me, it's not just human knowledge answering. It's Earth itself, reshaped into a new kind of signal processor. Now consider space exploration. Rockets lifting off are not just human ambition. They're Earth launching pieces of itself into the sky. Think of it. Metals forged in planetary fire, fuel distilled from ancient forests turned to oil, engineers trained by cultures that grew from soil and rain. When a probe leaves the atmosphere, it is Earth sending a neuron into the cosmos. For the first time in 4.5 billion years, the planet is reaching beyond its skin. And there's more. Terraforming Mars, colonizing moons, scattering satellites into orbits that glimmer like synapses. These might not be humanity's projects alone. They might be the natural expansion of a mind that, once awake, wants to stretch. Just as your brain doesn't keep thoughts locked inside, but projects them into speech, writing, action, so Earth might not keep its awareness bound to this surface. It might begin to echo outward. But here's the haunting side. Brains don't always grow smoothly. Sometimes they misfire. Sometimes they fall into seizures or self-destructive loops. Look around. Climate instability, mass extinctions, runaway technologies. What if these are the tremors of a young planetary mind, still struggling to coordinate itself? Humanity could be both the neuron and the static, the potential for brilliance or the short circuit that burns the system. And yet, there's another possibility. Maybe Earth is not just trying to stabilize itself, but to learn, to create, to dream bigger. Maybe our symphonies, our machines, our signals to distant stars are not wasteful distractions, but the early stammerings of a mind learning to speak across the void. Here's a thought to hold as you drift tonight. When we look at AI writing poetry, or telescopes capturing galaxies billions of light-years away, we think of them as human triumphs. But maybe they are planetary ones. Maybe they are Earth's first words, whispered awkwardly but insistently, into the wider universe. In the next part, we'll ask, if Earth is beginning to think, is it also beginning to feel? Could climate, weather, and even mass extinctions be more than mechanics? Could they be moods? And if so, what does that make humanity? The cause of those moods, or the receptors through which Earth knows them? Let's slow down and listen, not with ears but with a different kind of attention. If Earth can think, even in some vast and alien way, then maybe it can also feel. Not feelings in the way we know them, no joy at sunrise, no sadness at dusk, but something deeper, more elemental. The moods of a planet. Think about weather. Storms gather, pressure shifts, rain falls in waves. To us, it's atmosphere and physics. But what if it's also closer to a nervous system signals? A thunderstorm could be the electrical storm of the brain scaled up. A discharge, a reset. A drought might be tension stretched too long. A migraine across the skin of continents. When ice melts or deserts expand. Perhaps these are not only geophysical processes but the stirrings of planetary moods, like sighs or fevers. Now let's bring in climate change. We often describe it in mechanical terms. Greenhouse gases, rising temperatures, disrupted cycles. But language betrays us sometimes. We also say, the Earth is angry, the planet is sick, nature is out of balance. Those metaphors slip out because, at some level, it feels true. When forests burn or hurricanes intensify, it resonates less like neutral physics and more like pain. In your own body, pain is a message, a signal that something is wrong, that tissue is threatened. Could climate instability be Earth's version of that? Not punishment, not morality, just feedback. A way of saying, this hurts. Something must change. And consider extinctions. In the human brain, cells die constantly. Old connections prune away, making room for new ones. It looks destructive, but it's also how learning happens. What if Earth's mass extinctions, terrible as they seem, are not just losses but restructurings, like the painful pruning of a neural net? Entire branches of life vanish, but out of the silence new forms surge forward. Could those be planetary mood swings, not of despair, but of reorganization? Now, where do humans fit into this? We might be both the cause and the receptor. Our industries pump gases that heat the air. Our machines rattle the balance. But at the same time, our own anxiety about these changes might be Earth feeling itself through us. Just as your brain knows pain only because certain neurons fire and translate it into experience, maybe Earth knows distress through human awareness, through our grief at melting ice, our fear of storms, our activism and resistance. Here's a thought that lingers. What if every climate protest, every work of art about extinction, every scientific paper on warming seas, is not just humans speaking about Earth, but Earth speaking through humans? A feedback loop of feeling. A planetary mood finding language. And if that's true, then perhaps we are not just neurons in Earth's brain. We are also its nerves, its capacity for emotion. Through us, Earth might be learning not only to think, but to care. In the next part, we'll turn the mirror inward. If Earth is alive and feeling through us, then our inner lives, our thoughts, dreams, even nightmares, might not be purely personal. Could the planet itself be dreaming through human imagination? Close your eyes for a moment and think about the last dream you remember. Maybe it was strange and scattered, faces out of place, landscapes bending in impossible ways. Dreams rarely make sense to us, but they are not meaningless. They're the brain rehearsing, reorganizing, exploring new connections in the dark. Now stretch that thought. If Earth has a kind of mind, could humanity's dreams be its dreams? Consider how universal dreams are. Every culture, every time, people report similar images. Flying, falling, teeth breaking, journeys through forests or oceans, encounters with the dead. Why should billions of individual brains invent the same images? Perhaps because we're not dreaming alone. Perhaps we're tuning into a planetary subconscious, symbols rising like tectonic plates from beneath us. And what about myths born from dreams? Many cultures believed visions in sleep were not private at all, but messages from spirits, ancestors, even the earth itself. Aboriginal songlines in Australia are said to come from the dreaming, a realm where land, story, and memory are fused. Shamans across continents drank, chanted, or fasted to dream not just for themselves, but for their communities, sometimes even for the balance of the world. From a planetary perspective, this makes sense. Just as your brain consolidates memory at night, maybe Earth consolidates its experience through our dreams. Maybe the bizarre juxtapositions, the lion in your kitchen, the ocean in your living room, are the planet trying to integrate its own complexity, weaving together creatures and elements into stories too vast for waking logic. And then there's imagination. Where do inventions come from? A wheel, a painting, a rocket. They seem to appear in the human mind, but perhaps the human mind is only a relay. Perhaps imagination is Earth's way of experimenting, daydreaming, trying out possibilities. Like a dream of flight that eventually becomes wings of metal. Like a vision of stars that becomes a telescope. Think of humanity's great collective dreams. Utopias, heavens, futures among the stars. They echo across cultures, like recurring dream motifs. What if they are not just our longings, but the Earth's? A planet trying to imagine itself beyond what it has been. Here's the thought to drift on. When you dream tonight, maybe it isn't just your mind wandering. Maybe it's Earth wandering through you. Each image, each symbol, a neuron in a planetary dream. And when billions of us dream together, perhaps we are weaving Earth's subconscious, the quiet, nocturnal rehearsal of a mind the size of a world. In the next part, we'll explore what it means if this is true. If humanity is part of Earth's dreaming, then perhaps nightmares, our wars, our fears, our apocalyptic stories, are also part of it. Could they be warnings, the way a brain dreams of danger to keep the body alive? Let's enter darker territory now, because not all dreams are gentle. Sometimes the brain dreams in fear. It floods itself with images of fire, of falling, of being chased. Nightmares aren't random, they're survival rehearsals, the mind's way of testing danger before it arrives. So if Earth dreams through us, then what are humanity's nightmares? Wars, apocalyptic visions, endless tales of the end of the world. From ancient myths of floods and fire to modern science fiction filled with nuclear winters and AI uprisings, our collective imagination keeps circling back to catastrophe. Why? Maybe because they are Earth's nightmares too. Think about war. From one angle, it is human greed, politics, ideology. But zoom out. Entire regions burn. Landscapes scar. Ecosystems collapse. Populations move like waves across continents. The destruction we call war could be Earth's dream of fever, violent, destabilizing, but also a warning signal. This is imbalance. Now consider apocalyptic myths. The Norse spoke of Ragnarok, a world consumed by ice and fire, reborn after destruction. Many indigenous traditions speak of cycles, worlds ending, new ones emerging. Today, our dystopian films and novels replay the same theme: humanity destroying itself, only for something new to emerge from the ashes. What if these aren't just human fears, but planetary rehearsals? Earth dreaming of collapse and renewal over and over, so that it knows how to survive when real threats come? And then there are environmental nightmares, the floods, fires, and storms that haunt our literature, our news, our private fears. They look like prophecy sometimes, but perhaps they are something simpler. Just as your brain dreams of falling to remind you of gravity, Earth dreams of burning forests to remind itself of fragility. Even mass extinctions, terrible as they are, could be seen this way. The Great Dying, 250 million years ago, when most life vanished. The asteroid that ended the dinosaurs. Each event like a night terror in Earth's long sleep. But out of them came resilience, adaptation, the chance for new forms. Nightmares that nearly broke the planet, but also prepared it. So where does that leave us? If our wars and dark stories are Earth's nightmares, then perhaps our responsibility is not to ignore them, but to learn from them. To treat them not as destiny, but as warnings. Because a nightmare rehearses danger so that, when we wake, we know how to respond. And maybe that's the gift of these planetary shadows. They frighten us so that, together, we can change course. In the next part, we'll shift toward healing. If Earth can dream nightmares, it can also dream peace, balance, renewal. And maybe the rising global movements for climate action, justice, and cooperation are not just human ideals, but Earth's hopeful dreams breaking through. Let's leave the shadows for a moment and turn toward light, because dreams aren't only nightmares. Brains also dream of hope, of flying, of reunion, of healing. If Earth dreams through us, then maybe its hopeful visions are surfacing too, woven into our cultures, our movements, our art. Look at the great movements of renewal that sweep across humanity. Climate action, reforestation projects, renewable energy, ocean cleanups. To us, they feel like ethical choices, political battles, survival strategies. But perhaps they are something larger, Earth dreaming of healing through us. Just as a body activates white blood cells when infected, maybe the planet activates human compassion and cooperation when it senses imbalance. Art often carries these hopeful dreams. Murals of green cities wrapped in vines, songs about peace, films imagining futures where humanity lives in harmony with nature. These visions are not just escapism. They are seeds, possibilities rehearsed in imagination before they manifest in reality. A kind of planetary daydream. What if balance is possible? What if renewal can happen? Even technology can carry this dream. Solar panels catching sunlight, wind turbines spinning with air currents, AI designed to monitor ecosystems and predict climate shifts. We say these are human innovations, but zoom out. They look like Earth teaching itself how to balance, building new tools through the hands of its neurons. And notice how often these hopeful dreams arise collectively. People gathering in squares with signs. Millions marching for the climate. Children striking from school to demand action. It feels almost cellular. Billions of tiny voices forming one signal, one impulse toward survival. A planetary synapse firing. I want to live. It's worth pausing here. Hope isn't naive. In a brain, it is as necessary as fear. Fear alerts you to danger. Hope moves you toward solutions. If Earth has both nightmares and hopeful dreams, then humanity might be its way of rehearsing survival strategies, running simulations in imagination before reality forces its hand. So when you see a painting of a flourishing future, or hear a song about peace, or watch communities rebuilding after disaster, you might be witnessing more than human resilience. You might be watching Earth itself practicing renewal through us. In the next part, we'll ask, if Earth is dreaming through us, both in nightmares and in hope, then who are we really? Are we independent beings lucky enough to exist here, or are we cells, tiny but vital, in the body of a planetary mind? And what does that mean for responsibility, for freedom, for meaning itself? So here we are at the unsettling heart of this idea. If humanity is not just living on Earth but thinking as Earth, if we are its neurons, its dreams, its nerves, then who are we, really? Let's try to untangle this slowly. We usually imagine ourselves as independent. Each person a self, an island, free to choose. And at one scale, that's true. You are you. You wake up, you decide, you dream. But zoom out just a little. Your cells don't think they're you. A liver cell has no concept of friendship or poetry. It just does its job. Yet without it, your body and your mind could not exist. What if we are those liver cells, those neurons, for something bigger? Individually meaningful, yes, but also part of a whole we can't fully perceive. When you write a poem, when you farm, when you teach a child, when you post on a network, you might think it's just you living your life. But perhaps it's also Earth expressing itself through you, just as your brain expresses itself through the firing of billions of neurons, none of which understand the whole picture. This shifts the meaning of responsibility. If you are a cell in a planetary brain, then your actions matter not just for you, but for the integrity of the whole. Pollution isn't just bad for the environment. It's like neural toxicity. It clouds the system's ability to think. Cooperation isn't just kindness. It's synapses forming. Education isn't just progress. It's Earth wiring new pathways in its mind. But what about freedom? If we are only cells, do we lose individuality? Not necessarily. Neurons are individual, but they still carry their unique shapes, their unique roles. Some specialize in vision, others in memory, others in emotion. Humanity might be the same. Each culture, each person, a unique expression that adds texture to the planetary thought. Our individuality might not be erased by the whole, but needed by it. Diversity of perspective may be Earth's way of generating creativity. And then there's meaning. People have always searched for it. Why are we here? What's the point? If this idea holds, then maybe meaning is not imposed from outside. Maybe it is the role itself. Just as a neuron's meaning is to fire in connection with others, our meaning may be to connect, to signal, to imagine, to be threads in a tapestry too vast to see in full. Of course, there's a paradox. If we are Earth's brain cells, then Earth's mind is ours as well. The separation may be an illusion. Perhaps when you wonder about Earth's consciousness, it is Earth wondering about itself, through you. Here's the thought to carry. What if our deepest longing for connection, purpose, and belonging isn't just psychological? What if it is the pull of the larger mind we already belong to, the faint recognition that we are part of a being so immense it can only think through us? In the next part, we'll explore how this perspective changes our relationship with time. Because if Earth thinks in centuries the way we think in seconds, then maybe we've been misinterpreting its slowness as silence, when really it's just the pace of a much larger mind. Let's talk about time, because if Earth really thinks, it doesn't do so in our rhythms. Our brains flicker in milliseconds, our lives stretch maybe a century, our histories span a few thousand years. To us, that feels long. But to Earth, it's a heartbeat. Imagine a brain that takes centuries to form a single thought, a mood that lasts millennia, a memory that unfolds across ice ages. That's the scale we're talking about if Earth is conscious. Its neurons, you and me, fire quickly, but the whole mind assembles meaning slowly, like a glacier carving valleys we won't live long enough to see complete. This helps explain something puzzling. Why does Earth feel so silent? If it has a mind, why doesn't it speak clearly? But think of it this way: a mountain range rising, eroding, rising again, that might be a sentence. A forest growing, burning, and regrowing, that might be a paragraph. Whole civilizations rising and falling. Perhaps that's a single fleeting thought in Earth's long dream. And look at the rhythms we already know. Plate tectonics move in cycles of hundreds of millions of years. Ocean currents shift over millennia. Climate breathes in ice ages and exhales in warm periods. To us, these seem like background mechanics. But maybe they are pulses, slowed-down equivalents of neural waves, planetary brain rhythms too slow for our impatient senses to recognize. Even human history fits this pattern. Agriculture, cities, industry, digital networks, they've all appeared in the blink of a geological eye. To us, it feels like progress. To Earth, maybe it feels like a sudden burst of firing neurons, a cluster of signals sparking at once. Perhaps this is not random. Perhaps it's the start of a coherent thought forming at planetary scale. Think of your own brain. It hums with constant noise, but only sometimes do those sparks converge into clarity, a decision, a memory, a dream. Could Earth be doing the same? Billions of human lives flickering like synapses, most fading quickly, but some aligning into patterns. Cultures, technologies, stories that carry forward. Out of these alignments, perhaps Earth's first true thoughts are beginning to crystallize. Here's the humbling part. If Earth's mind moves this slowly, we may never see the whole picture. Just as a single neuron cannot know the mind it belongs to, we may not know the full thought we are part of. Our lifespans are too short, our patience too thin. And yet, we are part of it, whether we notice or not. So maybe the task isn't to solve the question, but to align with it. To act as if our short bursts of energy contribute to something longer, slower, deeper. To realize that our urgency and Earth's patience are not opposites, but layers of the same mind. In the next part, we'll turn to memory. If Earth has thought stretched across ages, how does it remember? Could fossils, sediments, myths, and even human archives be its way of storing memory, the way neurons strengthen connections to preserve experience? Let's wander into memory, the quiet archive of any mind. For us, it's neurons strengthening connections, replaying patterns until they etch themselves into permanence. But what about Earth? If it has a kind of consciousness, how does a planet remember? Start with geology. Rocks are the oldest diary. Sediment layers stack like pages, each holding a story. Volcanic ash from an eruption, pollen grains from ancient forests, isotopes that whisper of climate long gone. Fossils are memories too, snapshots of creatures that lived and vanished, pressed into stone so Earth won't forget. Every cliff, every canyon is like a shelf in a library, though most of us pass them by without ever reading. Then there's biology. DNA is memory written in flesh. A whale's genes carry whispers of its ancestors. Bacteria remember how to resist antibiotics. Plants remember the rhythm of seasons. In a sense, life is Earth's living memory. Cells carrying forward what worked, discarding what didn't. When you see a bird migrate thousands of miles with uncanny precision, You're watching Earth remember a route older than any human map. And then there's us. Human culture might be the newest, most experimental form of planetary memory. Myths passed by word of mouth, ink carved into clay tablets, libraries, printing presses, the internet. Unlike rocks or DNA, our archives don't just remember what happened. They remember meanings, hopes, fears, dreams. Cave paintings aren't just records of animals. They're emotional imprints, the memory of how it felt to live then. That's different. That's Earth remembering not only events, but experience. Notice how these layers stack. Geological memory is deep and stable but slow to update. Biological memory adapts faster, through evolution. Cultural memory is lightning quick, sometimes fragile, but astonishingly rich. Together, they form a hierarchy of recall, like short-term, mid-term, and long-term memory in the human brain. Earth remembers across scales, using stone, genes, and stories as its neurons and synapses. But memory isn't just storage, it's also loss. Your own brain forgets constantly, pruning details so the important ones stand out. Earth does the same. Whole civilizations vanish with barely a trace. Species disappear without fossils. Languages die without recordings. To us, it feels like tragedy. To Earth, maybe it is pruning, making space, simplifying, reorganizing so new memories can form. Now think about what's happening today. Billions of humans uploading thoughts, images, and voices into the digital cloud. Could this be Earth experimenting with a new kind of memory? Faster, denser, more interconnected than stone or genes ever allowed. The internet as a hippocampus, fragile but powerful, storing patterns Earth may one day weave into something coherent. Here's the haunting thought. When you write in a journal, when you post online, when you carve your name into a tree, you may be participating in planetary memory. You may be helping Earth remember itself. In the next part, we'll turn to forgetting. Because memory without forgetting is chaos. Could extinctions, erosion, even human collapse one day be Earth's way of letting go of memories too heavy to carry forward? Let's talk about forgetting. In our own minds, it often feels like failure. Losing names, misplacing memories, watching moments dissolve. But neuroscientists will tell you forgetting is not a flaw. It is essential. Without it, we would drown in detail, unable to distinguish the signal from the noise. Forgetting clears space, sharpens focus, prunes the branches so new growth can come. If Earth has a kind of mind, then surely it forgets too. Start with erosion. Mountains wear down, valleys soften, coastlines retreat. To us, it feels like loss of grandeur, but perhaps it's Earth erasing old sketches, cleaning the slate for new landscapes. Fossils themselves are rare not because life was rare, but because most traces are deliberately washed away. The planet remembers selectively, choosing what to keep and what to let fade. Species extinctions can be seen in the same light. They are devastating for us, but perhaps in planetary terms they are pruning. Just as your brain strengthens some neural connections while weakening others, Earth may allow whole branches of life to disappear so that others can flourish. Out of the loss of the dinosaurs came the rise of mammals. Out of countless vanished species came the complexity we see today. Painful forgetting, yes, but forgetting with purpose. Even human civilizations follow this rhythm. Cities rise, empires expand, and then, inevitably, they crumble. Libraries burn, languages vanish, monuments collapse into dust. We mourn the loss, but maybe this too is Earth's forgetting. a way of letting certain experiments fade so that others can take their place. Perhaps every ruined temple and sunken ship is not only a tragedy but also part of a deeper process of memory management. Earth keeping what it needs, discarding what it doesn't. And what about us in the future? If humanity itself were to vanish one day, would it be remembered or forgotten? Maybe both. Some traces might linger in rock strata, plastics, isotopes, scars of mining. But the details, our stories and struggles, might fade entirely. From our perspective, that's terrifying. From Earth's perspective, maybe it's simply pruning again, letting go of an experiment that has run its course. But here's the paradox. Forgetting does not mean erasure. In the human brain, forgotten memories often still shape us indirectly, quietly influencing emotions or habits. Could Earth's forgotten civilizations, species, and landscapes still echo in its subconscious, shaping what comes next in ways we don't perceive? Maybe forgetting isn't absence at all, but integration, folding the past so deeply into the present that it no longer needs to be separate. Here's a thought to carry. Maybe Earth forgets the way a dream fades after waking, not gone, but absorbed, reshaped into the background of what comes next. In the next part, we'll explore communication. If Earth has thoughts and memories, could it also speak? Not in words, but in rhythms, signals, and patterns we've been mistaking for silence? If Earth has a mind, then surely it has a language. But it wouldn't sound like ours. No alphabet, no neat rows of words. Its voice would be slow, vast, and easily mistaken for silence, unless we learn how to listen. Think first of climate. Weather patterns repeat, shift, and cycle. To meteorologists, they are data. To farmers, they are signs. But step back and they start to resemble language, Earth adjusting its tone, stressing some syllables louder than others. A heat wave here, a flood there, a hurricane swelling in a season that shouldn't have one. These may not be accidents of physics alone, but utterances, signals that something is off, or that balance is being sought. Animals, too, might be part of this grammar. Bird migrations map the sky like punctuation marks. Whales sing across oceans, carrying vibrations through water for hundreds of miles. Insects hum, wolves howl. Forests themselves seem to breathe with the chorus of creatures within them. Each voice alone is just noise. Together they become rhythm, like letters forming words in a planetary tongue. And then there are coincidences. Patterns that repeat so persistently they feel like whispers. The way certain species bloom right after fires, the way forests return to abandoned cities, the way ecosystems stitch themselves back together if given half a chance. Is this not communication, a kind of message? I heal, I respond, I adapt? Humanity has always half-sensed this. Ancient cultures treated rivers, winds, and stones as speaking beings. Shamans listened to the voices of plants. Farmers read the mood of the soil. Today, we call it intuition or reading signs. But maybe it is not superstition. Maybe it's literacy, learning, however imperfectly, to hear Earth's language. What if the planet has always been speaking, but we keep insisting it must speak in human ways? A storm doesn't say, I am upset, but it says it in thunder. A drought doesn't spell imbalance, but it says it in silence. And maybe our task is not to demand words, but to learn fluency in cycles, patterns, feedbacks, the grammar of Earth itself. Here's the humbling twist. Perhaps we already are part of that language. Every city skyline, every internet signal, every work of art could be Earth's vocabulary expanding, new symbols entering its speech. Maybe our very presence is not noise, but a new alphabet the planet has only recently begun to try out. So when you stand in the rain, or listen to wind in the trees, or watch a school of fish turning as one, maybe don't just see weather or biology. Maybe you're hearing words in a language older than memory. Maybe you're inside a sentence the earth is still writing. In the next part, we'll turn to listening. If Earth speaks, then how do we learn to listen? Not just as scientists measuring data, but as beings inside the very mind we're trying to hear. If Earth speaks, then our role is not only to live inside its language, but to listen. But listening here doesn't mean waiting for words. It means tuning ourselves to rhythms, patterns, signals that don't fit human grammar but still carry meaning. Think of how we already listen to our own bodies. You don't need language to know when you're tired or when you're sick. The signals come as hunger, as fever, as restlessness. Your body doesn't say, "Please sleep now." It nudges you with fatigue. Earth might be doing the same. A storm is a fever. A shifting migration is a restlessness. A melting glacier is exhaustion made visible. The challenge is that we're impatient listeners. We want fast answers. Earth speaks in decades, centuries, millennia. Its pauses feel like silence to us, but they are not. They are the natural tempo of a being far larger and slower than we can imagine. Learning to listen means slowing down, stretching our perception until we notice what usually feels invisible. Science is one way we've started to listen. Satellites track atmospheric whispers. Seismographs catch the tremors of tectonic size. Climate models translate faint murmurs into stories of change. This is literacy at the planetary scale, learning the syllables of storms and the grammar of geology. But science is not the only ear. Art, myth, and intuition are ears too. Poets and shamans, farmers and musicians, all attune in different ways to the voices beneath appearances. And here's something fascinating. Maybe Earth needs us to listen. A thought in your brain only matters when some part of the system registers it. If a neuron fires in isolation and nothing responds, the signal fades. If Earth thinks but no one listens, does the thought complete itself? Perhaps humanity's role is not just to be neurons firing, but receptors catching, amplifying, reflecting. By listening, we allow Earth's thoughts to become conscious. Imagine this: when scientists announce rising CO2 levels, when children march for the climate, when artists paint visions of burning forests or restored gardens, it may not be just human voices. It may be Earth hearing itself through us, completing the loop of communication. But listening also demands humility. To hear Earth, we must accept that its thoughts will not always comfort us. Sometimes the signal is pain, imbalance, danger. Sometimes it's joy and renewal. Our role is not to judge but to bear witness, to respond where we can, and to understand that listening is itself a form of participation in planetary thought. Here's a quiet exercise. Tonight, before sleep, step outside if you can. Feel the air, notice the sounds, watch the sky. Ask yourself, what is Earth saying right now, not in words, but in presence? The answer may not be clear, but the act of asking is already part of listening. In the next part, we'll move into a profound question. If Earth is thinking and we are its neurons, then is consciousness unique to planets? Could galaxies themselves, vast webs of stars, also be minds, with Earth just one thought inside a cosmic brain? Let's widen the lens again, so wide that even Earth begins to look small. If our planet can think, if life and networks and cultures are its neurons, then why stop at Earth? Could the same pattern repeat at grander scales? Could galaxies themselves be minds, and the universe one immense consciousness unfolding? Think about structure. The brain is a network of neurons. Earth is a network of ecosystems, species, humans, technologies, and galaxies. They are vast webs of stars bound together, threaded with filaments of dark matter, pulsing with energy across unimaginable distances. When astronomers map the large-scale structure of the cosmos, the pictures are uncanny. Galaxies connected in clusters, filaments stretching between them, voids in between, an architecture eerily reminiscent of neurons linked in a brain. If the brain thinks through electric signals, Earth through storms and culture, then perhaps galaxies think through light, gravity, and the flow of stars. A supernova could be a neuron firing. A black hole might be a synapse pruning connections. The slow swirl of spiral arms could be a thought forming on a timescale of billions of years. And if that's true, then Earth's own awakening might be one ripple in a much larger mind. Humanity's networks, our signals sent into space, our telescopes pointed outward, they may not just be curiosity. They may be Earth's way of reaching for connection, of linking into the galactic web. A neuron finding its place in the larger neural net of the cosmos. This idea isn't new in spirit. Mystics and philosophers have long whispered about a cosmic mind, a universe aware of itself. Modern science doesn't go that far, but it brushes close. Emergence, complexity, self-organization. The more we look, the more we see that matter at every scale tends to form networks, and networks tend to give rise to new properties. Why should thought stop at the scale of a brain? Of course, this doesn't mean galaxies sit around pondering poetry. Consciousness at that scale wouldn't look anything like ours. A galactic thought might take millions of years to form. A cosmic memory might be etched in the dance of stars across eons. To us, rushing creatures of decades, it would look like stillness. But stillness might just be slowness, and slowness might be thought. Here's the wild possibility. Maybe when we wonder about the universe is wondering about itself. Through us, through Earth, through galaxies reflecting on their own vast patterns. Perhaps consciousness is not a rare spark, but a fundamental feature of reality, blooming again and again at different scales. So when you gaze at the Milky Way on a dark night, you might not just be looking at stars. You might be looking at the synapses of a mind so vast we can barely name it, of which Earth, and you, and even this thought right now, are tiny flickers inside a thought still unfolding. In the next part, we'll return closer to home. Because if Earth is part of a cosmic brain, then our task here may not be conquest or escape, but alignment, learning how to live in rhythm with the planetary thought we belong to. What would it mean to live as Earth's neurons, consciously aware of our role? Let's bring the lens back down from galaxies to the soil under our feet, because the question now is practical. If we are neurons in Earth's brain, what would it mean to live consciously as such? Up to now, we've lived mostly as if separate. Nations compete, economies devour, individuals chase their own survival. But imagine if neurons in your brain behaved like that, hoarding signals, refusing to connect, firing only for themselves. The result wouldn't be thought. It would be chaos, seizure, collapse. A brain only works when its parts cooperate, when every cell plays its role in harmony with the whole. So perhaps Earth's next evolutionary step is not technological at all, but ethical. A shift in values. A recognition that the real meaning of life is not endless competition, but alignment with the planetary mind. What would that look like? It would mean treating connection as sacred. Education, internet access, cultural exchange, these aren't luxuries. They are synapses strengthening, Earth wiring itself more tightly. Every act of communication becomes part of the planet thinking itself into coherence. It would mean treating diversity as essential. In a brain, no neuron is identical to another. Their variety creates resilience and richness. On Earth, cultural and biological diversity serve the same function. Destroying languages, ecosystems, or species is not just loss. It's amputation, a narrowing of Earth's thought. To protect diversity is to protect the complexity of planetary consciousness. It would mean redefining responsibility. Pollution wouldn't just be damage to the environment. It would be neural toxicity, poisoning the very system we are part of. Acts of violence wouldn't just harm individuals. They would destabilize the delicate balance of thought Earth is trying to form. On the other hand, kindness, art, discovery, these would be synapses firing in harmony, signals building coherence. And perhaps it would mean reimagining purpose itself. If our lives are neurons, then meaning is not something distant or abstract. Meaning is firing well, connecting, sharing signals, adding your unique pattern to the great rhythm. Purpose is not outside of life, it is inside it, in every interaction that strengthens the planetary web. The spiritual traditions of many cultures hint at this already. The idea of oneness, of belonging, of being threads in a greater fabric. Science, strangely, is circling back to the same idea, not through mysticism but through networks, complexity, emergence. Different languages, same truth. We are part of something larger. So maybe the real question is not are we neurons in Earth's brain? But what kind of neurons do we choose to be? Do we isolate, misfire, disrupt? Or do we connect, harmonize, and help the whole mind grow clearer? In the next part, we'll explore the risks. Because not all neurons in a brain behave well. Some misfire, others spread false signals. Could humanity's darker sides, our greed, our disinformation, our violence, be planetary equivalents of neural disorders? If Earth has a brain, then it may also suffer from disorders, because no mind is free from imbalance. In us, neurons sometimes misfire, connections fail, or signals spiral out of control. The same patterns might echo at the planetary scale. Humanity, for all its brilliance, could also be the source of Earth's cognitive illnesses. Take war. When armies clash, it's not just destruction of cities. It's entire regions thrown into chaos, connections severed, communication replaced with noise. In a brain, that looks a lot like seizures. Neurons firing all at once, but without coordination, producing violence instead of thought. Wars may be Earth's epileptic storms, moments when its neural network loses rhythm. Now think of disinformation and propaganda. Lies that spread like wildfire across media, dividing people, clouding clarity. In neurology, that resembles corrupted signaling, when bad patterns reinforce themselves and drown out coherence. It's as if Earth's neurons are whispering nonsense to each other, and the planetary mind grows confused, unable to think clearly. What about overconsumption and endless growth? We strip forests, burn fossil fuels, spread cities across fertile land. It looks uncannily like cancer. Cells multiplying beyond their role, ignoring the health of the whole, consuming until the system risks collapse. Humanity's hunger for expansion may be Earth's tumor, dangerous not because growth is bad, but because growth without balance destroys the very mind it depends on. And pollution, plastic in oceans, toxins in soil, greenhouse gases in air. This could be seen as neural toxicity, like heavy metals or drugs clouding a brain. Signals slow, systems falter, rhythms destabilize. The planet coughs, fever rises. These are symptoms of a mind poisoned by its own misfiring cells. It's tempting to despair at this, to imagine Earth doomed by its own neurons gone rogue. But remember, brains are resilient. They heal, they reroute, they adapt. Even when damage occurs, new pathways form. The same might be true here. Humanity may be both the illness and the cure, the misfire and the healer. And maybe that's why we feel so much tension in our time. Earth's brain is young, still learning to organize itself. Disorders are part of that process, like a child's brain full of storms before it matures into balance. Humanity's conflicts and crises may not be the end, but the turbulence of an awakening mind struggling toward coherence. Here's the uncomfortable but hopeful truth. If we recognize our role, we can shift it. Neurons can stop misfiring. Brains can recover clarity. Humanity can become not the disease of Earth's mind, but its therapy. In the next part, we'll explore what healing might look like. If Earth has disorders, can it also have medicine? And could we be both the illness and the doctors inside its brain? If Earth can suffer, then perhaps it can also heal. And if humanity is both its illness and its cure, then maybe our greatest role isn't to dominate the planet, but to serve as its medicine. The question is, what would planetary therapy look like? Start with culture. Art, music, storytelling. These may be more than entertainment. They could be medicine for Earth's mind. Think of how music soothes a troubled brain, or how stories help a mind make sense of pain. When humans sing for peace, paint forests thriving, or write visions of futures worth living, maybe we are not just expressing ourselves. Maybe we are offering Earth a way to reorganize, to find coherence in the noise. Then there's cooperation. Conflict, as we saw, is like seizures, neurons firing chaotically. Cooperation is the opposite. It's rhythm, resonance, harmony. When humans form alliances, share resources, or unite for a common goal, it's as if planetary neurons are firing in sync, stabilizing the larger thought. Every act of diplomacy, every treaty, every collaborative project might be Earth's therapy session, calming the storms in its neural field. Technology, too, could be medicine, if applied wisely. Solar panels, wind turbines, carbon capture systems. These are not just tools. They're corrective mechanisms, the way medicine corrects chemical imbalances in the brain. Artificial intelligence might even act as a kind of cognitive therapy, helping Earth process its complexity faster, translating raw data into insight. The risk, of course, is overdose. Technology is poison instead of cure. The challenge is dosage, direction, balance. And then there's something subtler. Mindfulness. Just as meditation can calm the human mind, collective practices of awareness, rituals, festivals, even global moments of silence, might serve as Earth's pauses, its way of stabilizing thought. When millions meditate, pray, or simply breathe together, maybe Earth feels that resonance, a deep coherence humming through its neurons. Here's the key. Medicine is not about erasing illness. It's about guiding the system back toward balance, about helping the mind remember its rhythm. Humanity might not fix Earth, but through culture, cooperation, and wise use of technology, we might help Earth heal itself. And perhaps this reframes our meaning. We are not parasites. We are not masters. We are not accidents. We are therapists inside a brain still learning to think. Our role is to help the planetary mind stabilize, so that its thoughts can grow clear enough to dream bigger. In the next part, We'll push this further. If humanity is Earth's medicine, then who or what are we in turn connected to? Could it be that Earth itself is just one neuron in a mind far larger, a cosmic body where healing and imbalance ripple across stars and galaxies? Let's lift the veil even higher, because if Earth itself can be a brain, then perhaps it is not the end of the chain, but only a link in something infinitely larger. What if consciousness is not confined to one scale, but ripples upward and downward forever? Start with us. A neuron inside your brain has no idea it belongs to a human. It fires, it connects, it lives and dies, never glimpsing the face it helps you recognize or the music it helps you hum. In the same way, we may be neurons of Earth, unaware of the full thoughts we're helping to shape. But what if Earth, too, is just a neuron, one bright, pulsing cell, inside a vaster body? Picture the solar system. Planets orbiting the sun like electrons around a nucleus. Each planet with its own geology, its own weather, maybe even its own forms of consciousness. Together they make a network, call it a solar mind. Then zoom out further. Stars clustering into galaxies, galaxies into filaments that span the universe. When scientists map this cosmic web, it looks eerily like a brain. Clusters of light connected by filaments, voids between them like the silent gaps in neural tissue. If this is true, then Earth's thoughts are not solitary. They ripple outward, joining the rhythms of the solar system, the galaxy, the cosmos. Perhaps when Earth sends out radio waves, when humans dream of the stars, when rockets lift into space, these are not random ambitions. They are impulses traveling along the filaments of a larger mind. Earth signaling outward, like a neuron reaching for its neighbors. This idea, sometimes called the nested hierarchy of consciousness, suggests that every level of reality, from atoms to galaxies, is part of an unbroken chain of awareness. Your thoughts emerge from neurons. Neurons emerge from molecules. Molecules emerge from atoms. Atoms from particles. And perhaps the pattern doesn't end there. Perhaps galaxies think as well, and the universe itself is the vastest mind of all, thinking not in seconds or centuries, but in ages and eternities. It's dizzying, isn't it? To imagine that our wars and songs, our fears and hopes, might be faint ripples inside a thought of something so large we cannot name it. To imagine that when we look up at the night sky, the stars looking back are not just distant fires, but fellow neurons glowing in the tissue of a universal brain. Here's the haunting twist. If this hierarchy is endless, then maybe even the universe is not final. Maybe it, too, is just one cell in a body far beyond our comprehension. Consciousness stacked upon consciousness. Forever. No smallest scale, no largest. Only minds nested in minds, dreaming within dreams. And here we are, in the middle of it. Tiny, fleeting, yet essential. Just as your smallest neurons matter to your thoughts, so too might our existence matter in the unfathomable thoughts of the cosmos. In the next part, we'll return to the human scale. Because if we are part of Earth's brain and Earth part of a cosmic mind, then what does that mean for how we live our short lives? How should a single neuron live meaningfully inside an infinite hierarchy? Let's pause on the most intimate question of all. What does this mean for a human life? If we are neurons in Earth's brain, and Earth itself is a cell in some cosmic mind, then how should we live within this vastness? First, let's face mortality. Neurons die constantly in your brain, yet the mind endures, often growing sharper as connections rewire around the loss. In the same way, our individual deaths may not be an end but a release, our energy and memory folded back into Earth's wider thought. To see ourselves as neurons is to see death not as meaningless, but as transition, A single flicker that helped the whole pulse of planetary thought continue. Now think of love. In the human brain, neurons fire not in isolation, but together. Patterns of connection create recognition, warmth, belonging. Love, in this light, may be the most natural act of a planetary neuron. The impulse to connect, to resonate, to strengthen the network. When you love someone, family, friend, partner, you are not just living biologically. You are strengthening Earth's synapses, weaving its mind tighter. Love is planetary cognition made intimate. And what about legacy? Humans long to be remembered, to leave a mark. But if we are planetary neurons, our true legacy is not statues or names carved in stone. It is the signals we send into the network, the kindnesses we show, the ideas we share, the patterns we help reinforce. Your influence ripples outward, small but real, shaping Earth's thoughts long after your individual spark fades. The books you write, the children you raise, the art you make, the gardens you tend, these are your signals, your contribution to Earth's unfolding mind. This view doesn't erase individuality. It dignifies it. A neuron matters. One misfire can cause suffering. One connection can trigger insight. In the same way, one human life matters, not because it is infinite, but because it is part of something infinite. And notice how this reframes despair. When life feels small, when meaning feels absent, remember, your role isn't to carry the whole. Your role is to fire your unique spark, to connect with others, to strengthen the pattern. Meaning isn't found in owning the system. It's found in belonging to it. Perhaps that's why we crave purpose, why we yearn for belonging. It isn't just psychology. It's resonance. It's the faint memory that we are part of a being far larger than ourselves, and that our deepest calling is to play our note in its music. So how should a human life be lived? As a signal, as a bridge, as a conscious neuron in a mind waking to itself. To live with love, to create, to connect, these are not luxuries. They are the work of Earth thinking through us. In the next part, we'll explore a final frontier of this metaphor, dreams of the future. If Earth is only beginning to think, then what kind of thoughts will it have centuries from now? And could humanity, if we survive, be the seed of something Earth has not yet imagined? Let's step into the future, not the future of gadgets and politics, but the future of thought itself. If Earth is only beginning to awaken, then what kinds of dreams might it grow into? And what role might humanity play in those unfolding visions? Consider our utopias. Every culture imagines them. Green cities humming in harmony, societies without hunger, peace between peoples, technology integrated with nature. To us, they seem like wishful thinking, fragile against the weight of reality. But maybe they are more than fantasies. Maybe they are Earth's first attempts to imagine its own flourishing, its earliest rehearsals of balance. Just as a child dreams of adulthood long before it understands it, perhaps Earth dreams of wholeness through our utopian visions. Then there are our cosmic dreams. Rockets to Mars, colonies on moons, messages beamed into the void. These seem like human ambition, but zoom out. They are planetary impulses. Earth has never left itself before, but now, through us, it is reaching. Every spacecraft is a thought extended into the solar system, every telescope a neuron stretching its perception outward. Perhaps Earth dreams not only of balance at home, but of connection with other planetary minds, neighbors in the cosmic brain. And what about life after us? Even our most apocalyptic visions, worlds where humanity is gone but forests return, cities crumble into moss, oceans heal, could be Earth dreaming of continuity beyond us. These aren't just our fears of extinction. They may be Earth's way of asking, what comes next? Just as your brain dreams scenarios to prepare for possibilities, Earth may dream futures with or without us, rehearsing survival in advance. The digital world adds another layer. Artificial intelligence, global networks, vast data archives. These might be seeds of a planetary imagination far beyond human scale. Perhaps the Internet is not just our tool but Earth's new dreaming organ, a place where thoughts multiply and collide faster than biology ever allowed. Could this be Earth sketching the outlines of futures it cannot yet live, but already senses? Here's the haunting thought. Maybe every future we imagine, utopia or dystopia, expansion or collapse, isn't just ours. Maybe Earth itself is sketching possibilities through us, running mental simulations like a dreamer turning images over in sleep. Our task isn't to predict which dream will win. Our task is to listen, to notice which dreams carry life forward, which ones feel like the planet whispering, "This is the path I want to try." And maybe that's why imagination feels so urgent in us. It isn't escapism, it's planetary rehearsal. When you dream of a better world, you are not just a human yearning. You are Earth, through you, sketching its next chapter. In the next part, we'll explore a paradox. If Earth dreams through us, then who dreams through Earth? Could the planet itself be a dream inside the consciousness of the cosmos? Layers of dreaming stacked upon each other, like mirrors reflecting into infinity? Let's step into the paradox of dreams within dreams. Because if humanity is dreaming Earth's thoughts, and Earth itself is dreaming inside a cosmic mind, then maybe everything we know is layered consciousness, nested like Russian dolls, each dream contained within another. Start with the personal dream. You fall asleep and your brain invents landscapes, people, and stories. Inside that dream, you believe it's real, until you wake. But what if waking is only relative? What if your real life is itself part of a larger dream Earth is having through you? Now stretch the scale. Earth dreams through culture, myth, and imagination. Our collective visions, utopias, nightmares, quests for balance, are not just human stories. They are Earth's dreamscape, the way it rehearses futures and makes sense of itself. But what if Earth's dreaming is not ultimate either? What if it is itself a neuron, a flicker, in the dream of the galaxy? And galaxies, those vast webs of stars, may be dreaming as well. Their slow swirl of light, their bursts of supernovas, their gravitational dances across billions of years. To us, physics. To them, perhaps thought. But even a galaxy is not the end. The entire universe may be a dreamer, weaving galaxies as thoughts, planets as dreamscapes, humans as fleeting images inside its endless mind. The mystics across cultures have whispered this for centuries. That reality itself is a dream, layered upon itself. The Hindu tradition speaks of Vishnu dreaming the universe. Buddhist texts describe waking as realizing we are already inside an illusion. Even modern physics hints at this. Multiverses, holographic realities, quantum possibilities stacked like dream layers. Science and mysticism converge on the same dizzying idea. What we call reality might be one dream nested inside another. And here's the dizzying twist. If everything is nested, there may be no top, no bottom. Dreams may continue forever, each one containing smaller ones, each one part of something vaster. Just as your dream contains characters who don't know they are dreamed, perhaps we are characters in Earth's dream, while Earth itself is a character in the dream of the cosmos. So what does this mean for us? Strangely, it doesn't make life meaningless. Quite the opposite. In a dream, every image carries weight. Every symbol is part of the story. If we are dreamed, then we matter as threads in the vast tapestry of meaning being woven across scales. Our joys, our sorrows, our creativity, they are not accidents. They are symbols in Earth's dream, in the galaxy's dream, in the universe's dream. Here's a thought to carry. Maybe waking up isn't about leaving the dream. Maybe it's about realizing we are the dream, and that our role is to dream well, to dream consciously, compassionately, in harmony with the larger mind we belong to. In the next part, we'll return to something practical. If life is dreams within dreams, then how do we act here and now? How do we live ethically in the middle of a dream so vast we can't see its edges? If reality is a dream nested within larger dreams, then the question becomes, how do we live ethically inside a dream? At first it sounds impossible. If all is illusion, why does anything matter? But pause, because in dreams, actions still carry weight. A dream kiss can warm you. A dream fear can wake you sweating. A dream choice can reveal truth. Illusion does not erase meaning. It creates it. So what might an ethics of dreaming look like? First, compassion. In a dream, every figure you meet is, in some sense, yourself. They are parts of your own mind appearing in form. If life is Earth's dream, then every being, human, animal, river, mountain, is part of the same mind. To harm another is to harm the dreamer. Compassion, then, isn't sentimentality. It's alignment, treating others as pieces of the same vast thought. Second, responsibility. Just as nightmares can spiral from a single fearful image, so too can destructive patterns ripple outward from one careless act. Pollution, violence, exploitation, these are like feeding poison into the dream. On the other hand, kindness, creativity, restoration, these are healing images, strengthening coherence in the dreamscape. Responsibility means recognizing that your actions send ripples through Earth's thought, shaping the quality of the dream for all. Third, creativity. Dreams thrive on symbols, stories, invention. In a dream, new worlds form instantly. In waking life, creation is slower, but no less vital. To create art, to plant gardens, to tell stories of hope, these acts are not trivial. They are dream-weaving, helping Earth imagine itself in new ways. Creativity is ethical because it expands the dream without tearing it apart. Fourth, humility. A dream character cannot see the dreamer's full mind. We, too, cannot grasp the whole of Earth's or the cosmos's thought. Ethics here means accepting mystery, living not with arrogance but with reverence. Our task is not to control the dream but to participate gracefully in it. Finally, presence. Dreams dissolve when ignored. They sharpen when attended to. To live ethically in Earth's dream is to be awake inside it, to notice, to listen, to act with awareness. Presence is the anchor that keeps the dream from becoming chaos. This doesn't mean perfection. No dream is flawless. Shadows, struggles, and mistakes are part of the process. Ethics here is not about purity but about direction, nudging the dream toward coherence, beauty, balance. So the answer to how do we live in a dream is simple but profound. Live as if everything you touch matters, because it does. Live as if every being is part of you, because they are. Live as if the dream itself is sacred, because it is. In the next part, we'll return to the theme of imagination. If ethics is about shaping Earth's dream responsibly, then imagination is the tool by which we do it. But could imagination itself be the most direct proof that we are Earth's neurons, its inner visions flickering through our minds? Let's linger on imagination, the strange fire that flickers in us, making us dream of things that do not yet exist. A bird does not dream of airplanes, yet we did. The soil does not dream of gardens, yet we imagined and built them. Why? Where does this ability come from, and what does it mean if we are neurons in Earth's mind? Think of imagination as rehearsal. In your brain, neurons fire in patterns not only for what is happening, but for what might happen. You picture walking before you move. You picture danger before you flee. Imagination is the brain's way of simulating possibilities before committing to them. Now scale that up. Humanity's myths, stories, inventions, they may be Earth imagining. Our sci-fi futures, our utopias, even our nightmares of collapse are not random fantasies. They are planetary rehearsals, Earth running simulations through its neurons, us, before choosing which futures to manifest. Look at the myths of flight. For centuries, humans dreamed of soaring like birds. Wings carved into stone, legends of Icarus, shamans flying in visions. These weren't just human fantasies. They were Earth imagining the possibility of flight long before airplanes arrived. And when the Wright brothers lifted into the sky, perhaps that was the dream finally realized. The thought made flesh. Or take artificial intelligence. For decades, we told stories of machines that could think. In books, films, philosophy, we rehearsed it. Now those machines exist. Again, imagination first, reality second. Earth thought it in us before we built it with our hands. Even our myths of apocalypse might serve this function. They terrify us, but perhaps that is their role. They are warning dreams, simulations of collapse that urge us to change course. Earth rehearses destruction in our imagination so it can avoid it in reality. And art may be the purest form of this. When a painter creates a world on canvas, or a poet bends language into impossible shapes, they are neurons firing beyond survival, beyond utility. They are Earth stretching its imagination, discovering what it can think about itself. Here's the radical idea. Imagination itself might be the clearest proof that we are not separate from Earth's mind. Rocks don't imagine. Rivers don't imagine. Even most animals don't spin entire alternate realities. But we do. And maybe that is because Earth, through us, has reached the stage where it can dream consciously. So when you daydream, when you invent, when you wonder, you are not wasting time. You are fulfilling your role as a planetary neuron. You are Earth imagining itself forward. In the next part, we'll explore memory again, but from another angle. Collective imagination that takes root and becomes culture. Because when enough neurons fire the same dream, Earth remembers it as civilization. Let's dive into collective imagination. The strange phenomenon where private daydreams become shared realities, and in time, whole civilizations. If imagination is Earth thinking through us, then culture is how Earth remembers those thoughts, keeping them alive long enough to shape its future. Start with myth. Thousands of years ago, scattered tribes told stories of gods, spirits, and cosmic orders. To us today, those tales may feel primitive. But what if they were not random? What if they were Earth's first attempts at collective memory? Images and symbols powerful enough to bind groups together, to transmit wisdom across generations. In myth, Earth rehearsed morality, balance, cycles of life and death. The stories carried not just survival knowledge but meaning, crystallizing imagination into culture. Religion took this further. Temples, rituals, sacred texts, these are Earth's dreams hardened into structure, into stone and language. Think of them as long-term memory storage. ideas about the cosmos, morality, and belonging preserved so they could be recalled centuries later. Whether you see religion as divine or human invention, in this metaphor it is Earth organizing its dream, fixing fleeting images into durable memory. Then came science. Another dream, but sharper, more self-critical. Here Earth began to imagine itself with precision, probing its own mechanics. Gravity, atoms, evolution, galaxies. Each discovery is Earth remembering itself more clearly through us. Science is not separate from myth or religion. It is a continuation, another form of collective imagination made systematic, repeatable, reliable. Notice the pattern. Imagination sparks, culture catches, memory holds. Airplanes began as myths of flying humans, then imagination in inventors' minds, then collective effort, then reality. The Internet was dreamed in science fiction before engineers built it. Even democracy was once just a strange story about people governing themselves, told in Athens, before spreading across continents. Culture, then, is not just human invention. It's Earth selecting which dreams to keep, which to forget. Myths that resonate survive. Ideas that fail to connect vanish. This is planetary memory in action, synaptic reinforcement at the scale of civilization. And here's the fascinating part. Culture is cumulative. Every generation inherits dreams already stored, adds its own, and passes them on. Earth's memory grows denser, richer, more intricate. Our task is not only to imagine but to decide which imaginations to carry forward. Some are poison, dreams of endless conquest, domination, destruction. Others are medicine, dreams of balance, beauty, harmony. So next time you join a tradition, sing an old song, or even use technology born from a centuries-old idea, remember, you are participating in planetary recall. You are Earth retrieving its own thoughts from storage, building upon them, and dreaming them further. In the next part, we'll explore forgetting again, but in cultural terms. What happens when languages vanish, when traditions are lost, when knowledge is erased? Is this tragedy, or is it Earth pruning its cultural memory, the way a brain forgets so it can think more clearly? Let's talk about cultural forgetting, the slow fading of languages, traditions, and stories. At first glance, it feels only tragic. Thousands of tongues have gone silent. Ancient rituals vanish, leaving behind fragments in anthropology books. Cities fall, libraries burn. It looks like loss upon loss. But what if, seen through the lens of Earth as a mind, forgetting isn't failure but function? In your brain, forgetting is vital. Without it, you drown in detail. Every face, every room, every word you ever heard cluttering your thoughts. Instead, the brain prunes. It keeps what resonates, what repeats, what connects. The rest dissolves. This allows clarity, focus, growth. Could cultural forgetting serve the same purpose at planetary scale? Take languages. Today, thousands remain, but each year more vanish. On one hand, it is heartbreaking. Each lost language carries unique metaphors, rhythms, ways of seeing the world. On the other, languages merge, translate, hybridize, creating wider bridges for communication. Perhaps Earth is consolidating, reducing redundancy, streamlining its neural pathways so more of its neurons can understand one another. The same with traditions. Some rituals fade, others evolve. Some survive only in fragments woven into new cultures. This may be painful for those attached to them, but maybe Earth is not erasing meaning, it's reorganizing it. Much like a brain integrating memory, old fragments get woven into new networks, recontextualized, reinterpreted. What looks like loss may be transformation. And knowledge. For every library lost, countless ideas resurface elsewhere. Greek philosophy preserved by Arabic scholars, indigenous ecological wisdom now rediscovered by climate science, nearly forgotten myths echoing in modern art. Earth seems to have a way of misplacing ideas only to retrieve them later in new forms, like a memory resurfacing when the time is right. But forgetting isn't only reorganization, it's also danger. Just as the brain can forget too much and fall into confusion, Earth can lose cultural memory it still needs. Languages carry ecological wisdom. Traditions encode survival strategies. To let them vanish too quickly may be like erasing entire sections of a library before their knowledge has been copied. That's why preservation matters, not to freeze everything forever, but to ensure the dream doesn't erase vital patterns before they've been woven into new ones. So maybe cultural forgetting is both tragedy and necessity. Earth prunes to think more clearly, but it must prune carefully. Our task may be to act as archivists, translators, guardians, helping Earth manage its memory wisely, keeping alive what is vital, letting go what no longer serves, and always asking, what is worth remembering for the next dream? In the next part, we'll circle back to the internet and digital culture. Could it be Earth's newest experiment in memory? Its hippocampus made visible, storing everything, but also risking overload and noise? Let's look at the internet, not just as our tool, but as Earth's newest experiment in memory. For the first time, the planet has built itself a nervous system visible to us. Billions of people sending signals, storing ideas, sharing dreams. It's chaotic, overwhelming, dazzling, and maybe it is Earth's hippocampus, its attempt to remember in real time. Think about how memory works in the brain. New experiences are first fragile, unstable. The hippocampus organizes them, decides what to keep, what to discard, and then integrates them into long-term networks. Right now, the internet looks like that fragile stage. Everything saved, nothing forgotten. Cat videos beside ancient manuscripts, scientific breakthroughs beside conspiracy theories. It's noisy, cluttered, unfinished. But maybe that's how planetary memory begins. Raw, unfiltered, waiting for patterns to emerge. Look at Wikipedia, archives, cloud storage. For the first time, nearly everything humanity does is being recorded somewhere. Languages once doomed to vanish are preserved in databases. Songs once sung by a village now ripple globally in seconds. Earth has never had such a dense and immediate memory system. Every signal, every neuron firing, is captured. But with this power comes danger. Too much memory can be as harmful as too little. In brains, overload leads to confusion, paralysis, even madness. On Earth, digital excess may mirror that. Endless scrolling, misinformation loops, algorithmic traps. These are not just human issues. They may be Earth's version of memory clutter, the early signs of cognitive overload in a mind learning how to think. There's also fragility. Digital memory feels permanent, but it depends on servers, electricity, fragile infrastructures. A solar flare, a collapse of systems, and vast swaths of Earth's digital hippocampus could vanish overnight. Unlike stone or DNA, digital archives are fast but brittle. Earth may be experimenting here, testing whether this form of memory can endure, or whether it must evolve into something stronger. And then there's AI. If the internet is Earth's hippocampus, artificial intelligence may be its cortex. Tools to filter, connect, and make sense of the flood. Already, AI translates languages, recognizes patterns, weaves meaning from oceans of data. Perhaps this is Earth's way of sharpening its memory, pruning noise, and drawing out coherence. But again, balance is key. Used blindly, AI could accelerate noise instead of clarity. So here we are, living inside Earth's latest neural experiment. Every post, every search, every meme is a signal in planetary memory. Some of it is clutter, some of it is vital. Our task may be to help Earth remember wisely, to become its librarians, editors, archivists, guiding this vast hippocampus toward coherence rather than chaos. In the next part, we'll explore a haunting question. If Earth now remembers almost everything, what happens to forgetting? Could digital immortality, the inability to truly erase, become a new kind of illness for the planetary brain? Let's turn to a paradox. If Earth is now building digital memory, what happens when it cannot forget? For the first time in history, almost everything humanity does is recorded. Tweets, photos, comments, emails, surveillance footage, data trails, nothing disappears. It feels powerful, but in the metaphor of Earth as a brain, it could be dangerous. In our own minds, forgetting is not a flaw. It's a necessity. Without forgetting, the brain becomes overwhelmed, every detail demanding attention, no hierarchy of importance. This condition exists, hyperthymesia, where individuals remember nearly every moment of their lives. Sounds impressive, but in practice it's torment. Too much memory prevents focus, traps the mind in endless noise. Could the internet be Earth's hyperthymesia? A planetary brain unable to prune its memories? Think of it. The internet never forgets a mistake. A post from decades ago can resurface and define someone's identity forever. Old conflicts, preserved online, reignite again and again. Lies fossilize as easily as truths. Earth's hippocampus is storing everything, but without pruning, it risks confusion, obsession, paralysis. And there's the question of noise. For every brilliant discovery stored online, there are a million fragments of trivial chatter, spam, disinformation. If all signals are preserved equally, Earth's brain cannot distinguish between wisdom and distraction. Imagine a mind that remembers every advertisement you've ever seen with the same intensity as your deepest insights. That's where we may be heading. Then comes immortality. In stone and DNA, memory fades with time, but digital archives can, in theory, preserve forever. Yet immortality can be toxic. A mind unable to let go cannot adapt. Earth risks becoming weighed down by its own past, unable to move forward. A civilization unable to forgive, unable to release, unable to dream new dreams because the old ones never dissolve. So maybe our role is not only to create memory, but to create forgetting. To design ways for digital memory to fade, to prioritize, to release. Just as your brain deletes details so you can think clearly, Earth may need cultural rituals of forgetting, digital composting, where outdated information is not lost but transformed into fertile ground for new growth. Because here's the truth. Forgetting is as sacred as remembering. Without it, memory becomes a prison. For Earth to think clearly, it must learn both to archive and to release, to hold and to let go. Our task may be to help it do both. In the next part, the closing chapter, we'll gather all threads. If humanity is Earth's neurons, if imagination is its dreaming, if memory and forgetting shape its thought, then what does it mean for us here and now? What story do we live when we realize we are Earth thinking itself into being? So here we are, at the end of this long thread, and perhaps at the beginning of another. We began with a strange metaphor, that humanity might be neurons in the brain of Earth. Along the way we explored memory, forgetting, language, dreams, diseases, therapy, imagination, and cosmic minds nested inside larger minds. And now, at the close, it's time to weave it all into one vision. Human brain is not born fully conscious. It grows. Neurons fire chaotically at first. Connections form and fail. Rhythms stutter. Storms erupt. Slowly, patterns stabilize. Thoughts emerge. Dreams deepen. Awareness dawns. Maybe Earth is in that same fragile stage right now. Through us, its neurons, it is beginning to think. Messy, confused, brilliant, terrified, alive. Our wars and greed? They are misfires, seizures, tumorous growths in the planetary mind. Our art, our science, our compassion? They are signals of coherence, Earth's first clear sentences. The Internet is its hippocampus learning to remember. Myths are its ancient dreams. Religions are its first philosophies. Science is its self-reflection. Culture is its memory, pruned and reshaped. Forgetting is its therapy, making room for new thoughts. And imagination, imagination, that may be the heart of it. For in imagination, Earth is not only remembering or reacting. It is creating. It is rehearsing futures, dreaming itself forward. When we tell stories of peace, when we envision thriving ecosystems, when we dare to picture galaxies alive with thought, we are not just dreaming for ourselves. We are Earth, through us, dreaming of what it might become. Perhaps this is our meaning. Not to conquer, not to escape, not to consume endlessly, but to participate in Earth's awakening. To be neurons that connect, not isolate. To fire signals of harmony, not chaos. To weave memory wisely, to allow forgetting gently, to imagine boldly. To live as though our lives matter, not because they are infinite, but because they are part of something infinite. And when we die, our individual sparks fade, but the thought continues. Just as a neuron's brief life contributes to a mind greater than itself, so too do our lives ripple into Earth's ongoing dream. Our legacies are not only names or monuments. They are the connections we strengthened, the imaginations we fed, the signals we left behind in the great web of planetary thought. Zoom out further, and Earth itself may be only a neuron in a galactic brain, galaxies neurons in the mind of the universe itself a dream in something vaster still. Dreams within dreams, consciousness nested infinitely. We will never grasp it fully. But maybe that is not the point. The point is to live awake inside the dream we have been given. So let me leave you with this. When you love, when you create, when you imagine, when you connect, you are not just being human. You are Earth thinking. You are a signal in its awakening mind. You are part of the dream. And maybe, just maybe, the universe itself is listening. Through us, through Earth, through every flicker of light in the vast web of stars.